back to Core4Power, equipping people to harness the power of 4 core areas of life. We're talking about faith, we're talking about fitness, we're talking about family, and we are talking about finances in order to live a fully engaged life. And today our guest is Kori Oliver. Thank you so much for being here, Kori.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. I'm excited about having you on the show. A little bit about Kori that you should know. Kori is an actress. She is known for her role in a series called Beverly Hills Pawn that has come and gone, and she was aired in that. She's also played in a movie called God's Not Dead and various other movies.
Yes.
Not only is Kori an actress, but I know her as an amazing mother.
Okay, you're
Uh,
gonna make me cry already.
she's an amazing
Yes.
mother, but what I really, out of all that, I also appreciate the fact that you, in watching you over the years, you are an amazing spiritual woman of God who leads well other women in her community. And so I am grateful to have you today. So
That is probably the best introduction I've ever had. Thank you.
you are
I
welcome.
appreciate that, and I'm grateful. And it's been obviously a pleasure serving God. So thank you
Well,
for
and you
that.
do it
You're
well.
making me cry. We haven't even started this interview. We're like Barbara
Well,
Walters.
let's get started. Let's get started. How did you get into the acting business in the entertainment industry? Tell us a little bit about how that journey of
How? Oh my goodness.
yes.
So when I was little, my
Mm-hmm.
mom would always look at me and say, "Oh, don't be so dramatic." So I
Mm.
know it's kind of because you know me now, and I'm
Uh-huh.
really not in general in life, but I was just
No,
always
you're
I
pretty
always made things
solid.
bigger than they were, and um, and so I just kind of transitioned that into plays and local theater. You know, when I was when I
Mm-hmm.
was a kid, and then as I grew up, I had this passion and this desire, and so I packed everything in my car when I was 22, and I told my parents I'm moving to Los Angeles. If I don't make it in four
So you're
months, I'll be
22
back home.
years old,
22 years
and I'm
old,
going to LA
going to LA. And that's what I did. I
on your
packed
own.
up my Honda and I went to LA with $400 in my pocket,
Uh,
literally. And I had a place to, I was renting a room from a friend. And as soon as I got here, everything that could go wrong did go wrong.
yeah, that's it's supposed to go that way, right?
That's
You
the
got
way
to
it's supposed to go.
fight. You got to fight for
You have to
things.
fight for it. And as a kid, I was raised a Christian in a
Mm-hmm.
Christian home and with that faith and the values. But as you said in your launch that I listened to,
Thank
um,
you, by the way.
I had no thank you because I can identify with so much of it.
Mm.
And I was raised with God and Christ, and I knew Him, and I knew who Jesus was, and
Mm-hmm.
I told everybody who I
Mm-hmm.
believed in,
Mm-hmm.
but I didn't have a relationship.
Mm.
I have to be honest. I didn't have an actual relationship. And my Nana, God bless her, she would sit beside me and
Mm.
just, try to help me develop that relationship. And I had to go through the fire and fall off the bridge like you did, literally you did, and to meet him where
Mm.
I was at. And although a lot of the things that I went through were really devastating, I I'm so grateful for them
Mm.
because I now have an amazing relationship with God, and through it, He's helped me find my way in the industry.
Mm.
Because I think it's really important to have your both feet on the ground in this business. And I basically came here, going back to how I got into the
Mm-hmm.
business. I
Mm-hmm.
came to LA. I went through just a series of events that kind of kept trying to pull me from the business and lead me
Okay.
to him.
Okay.
But I booked commercials, Pepsi commercial and Bud Light and Pacific Blue and all kinds of movies and then
So you were working.
I was
You got
working.
out here, 22 years old,
I was working.
don't have any money, but you're going through some stuff, but you're working.
I was working.
Because a lot of people get out here to
Well,
LA and
I wasn't. I 3 weeks after I got here, I got into a major car accident. My car was
oh
gone.
my God,
God was like, "Look
everything
at
that's going to go
me."
wrong is going to go wrong, right?
Everything that was going to go wrong was going to go wrong, but I just kept going and I just
Mm.
kept pursuing, just like God keeps pursuing us. I just kept going and just kept going and I never gave up. I really never gave up and I hit every roadblock possible,
Mm.
everyone, and I just kept going and I got, this commercial and that show and then there was a dry season. I got married and
Mm.
moved out to Calabasas
Okay.
and had a baby and Ariana,
Mm-hmm.
love of my life.
Yes.
And
Amazing young lady.
yes, thank you. And then I went through another hardship. I went through divorce,
Mm.
which was it's like a death.
Mm-hmm.
in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
And I love my ex-husband. We're very good friends. But it is like a death. But through that, I just kept pressing in and raised Ariana. And then I said to her 3 years ago in the kitchen, I said, I really want to go back to acting, why I came here. And she said, okay, Mommy, well, let's pray about it. Now, I've been in Moms in Prayer for 9-10 years. And so I think that was her first go-to, which I was so grateful for. And
You're
so,
leading well, Mom.
well, thank you. It's God. But so I prayed about it, and she prayed about it. And every single night before we went to bed, she would say, God, please give my mommy her own show. And now I'm like, we can go back to this later, but now I'm like, we need to be more specific. But go ahead.
I want to stop right here.
Yes.
There are a couple things that I heard, and I've coined the listeners of the show the Core4Power tribe. All right, people listening in, looking for how other people are being powered in those 4 areas of life. Something I hear in your story already. Number 1 is embracing hardship as a blessing. You don't see it at the time, but it is a blessing, and Scripture speaks to this, and you've seen it. And so I hear that in your story. Number 2, persistency. Not giving up, right?
Yeah.
Persistency, being slapped in the face, knocked down, and getting back up and keep going. No money, wrecked your car. You were persistent and said, I want to achieve this. And that persistency and consistency, I hear that in your story. And I wanted the tribe to hear that if they didn't catch it.
You're right. And in Jeremiah 29:11, for I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you, not harm you, to give you hope and a future. I kept leaning on that because even though it tarry, wait for it, right? Even though it lingers, wait for it. But don't give up. And I think that there are many times, there are still times that I could give up. And because this desire is in my heart, I don't. And so back to the kitchen, I'm in the kitchen praying. I had just listened to my daughter for an entire year pray for me. And I was in the kitchen one day and I was crying, sobbing, like just tears flowing, which obviously those reach the heavenlies real fast. And I said, God, your word says, and I was challenging God. And people had said, why don't you have a conversation with God? And so I was bawling, and it was an ugly cry, I'm not going to lie. And I said, God, your word says, delight yourself in the Lord, and you'll give us the desires of our hearts. If this is not your desire for me to do this anymore, take it away from me. I will do whatever you want, literally. And there was silence. It was the most silence I've ever heard. And that sounds weird.
No. Well, it does.
It does
but
sound
I
weird.
understand it.
But you
I've
understand
had that.
it. And it was silent. And like one day went by, and 2 days, and 3 days. And I'm like, okay, what's going on? And on the third day, hello, heroes, I get a phone call for Book of Esther. Which, if you knew me, Esther, other than Jesus, is my favorite character in the Bible. So that was God's little way of saying, you're on the right path. And if you blink, you can miss the details. And he's so in the details. God is so in the details. And so I got the Book of Esther, and then I got Beverly Hills Pawn, and then I transitioned into God's Not Dead, and all without an agent. God has been my agent. And he knew that I would be here. But he knew he knew what I needed to be in this position. He knew I needed to have a stronger relationship with him. And I'm so grateful for that because I can hear his voice now. I couldn't hear it when I was 22 or even, younger. That's not to say that a 22-year-old can't. It just was my path and my journey.
I'm so glad you went to telling us about how you've done some different things and God's Not Dead and had a big role in that movie. But the Beverly Hills Pawn was a curiosity of mine on how did you land that? How did you get called in that? But obviously, just through hearing what we just heard, it's, your heart is yielded to the Lord and he is driving your steps. And there's a proverb about that. In his heart, a man plans his ways, but the Lord leads his steps, right?
Yes.
Woman, man.
Yes.
So are there any significant things that maybe occurred doing Beverly Hills Pawn that you can share with us that are like just a good story,
well,
lessons learned type of thing, right?
There are a lot of significant things that from day one I was like, okay, this is different. planning on doing reality TV. It's not that it's bad. I just wasn't planning on it. I come from, the acting scripted world. I
Yeah.
did movies and commercials, and I even wrote a movie. And so I had gotten this call, and I called my best friend Stephanie
Mm-hmm.
and said, I'm not sure what I should do about this. And she's just one of those prayer warriors that we pray about everything. And she said, Cory, you can't get up to hit the bat for Jesus or the ball for Jesus if you're not standing at, there with
Yeah.
the bat.
Mm-hmm.
And I was
Got to
like,
get to the plate.
that's right. And so I said, okay. And it was a blessing. Every day was a divine appointment, whether it was somebody that came in off the street or a guy that I sat with behind the scenes who wanted to kill himself.
Mm.
And it was just a quiet, intimate moment. And he poured out his heart to me. And, I had the opportunity of taking him in the back and praying with him. And God just shows up and he heals it all. And it was just an amazing moment. And he's alive today and has that relationship. And so sometimes we're pushed in a little bit,
Yeah.
to do something. Like as parents, we're
It's
like, hang
uncomfortable.
on, you can jump, you can swim without those floaties. And yet God will work all things together for good for those who serve him. And he did. And I had so many amazing moments on that set, and I miss every cast member. And we had trials and tribulations, and it made us all stronger. And it was just it turned out to be such a great blessing, and I'm grateful for it. And what I had such trepidation about and such fear about, God works it all together for good.
So hearing you say that, there's a proverb. I think it's Proverbs 31. I'm gonna save it though.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
I
save my
love that.
save my thought on that till the
Okay.
end. So make sure you stay tuned. I have a thought on that. Being an actress in the entertainment industry in Los Angeles, having an amazing story of overcoming, being persistent, going through trials, but still following the Lord through all this. As an actress in Hollywood entertainment, what would you say one of your greatest frustrations or uh, I guess a frustration or challenges of being in that world is? What's one of your greatest of living in that world, being in that world?
Um, One of my, I guess, I don't even want to say frustration because I know I can speak on behalf of many people, is
Mm-hmm.
there are so many talented people, as you know,
Mm.
so many, incredible, on the streets, off the streets. I mean, just incredibly talented people that don't get the opportunities. And you can feel like you're just not getting, I can do this, but I'm not getting that opportunity. And
Mm.
that's why I finally left it in God's hands. And I was like, okay, well, you're going to have to open up the doors that you want me to go through because I'm not getting the opportunities.
So you go ahead.
And I went back into it after taking 13
Mm-hmm.
years off, which is like, everyone told me, I had friends tell me, you're getting too old to play a leading lady. I'm so sorry. That's not going to happen for you. And then God put me opposite Kevin Sorbo in God's Not Dead. And I, don't
That's
limit
great.
him. You can't limit God. He will show up and show off in a way that you never
So
imagined.
an encouragement that I hear you saying, a challenge within that industry that people are faced with is the time of giving up. That's a
Right.
challenge. And so that's just a life lesson. That's in anything,
That's a life
right?
lesson. And Harrison Ford said it best. I mean, he was 38, 40 when he finally made it. And he said, I just figured I'd wait out all my competition in his age range. And,
It's a
'cause
mindset.
people had
There's
to
a
get
particular
jobs. It's a
mindset.
mindset. It is. And you know what it's like to
Yeah.
fight through it
Oh,
and,
yeah.
and not give up. It's really about never giving up. It really is.
So those of you that are out there listening, I hope that you're getting to see the heart and the woman of Cory Oliver. She has a story. She's an overcomer. She is persistent. She's a devoted woman of God. But we're going to shift a little bit in the
Okay.
questioning. I got like, some different questions for you, and I want to shift to just a general worldview on humanity. And so I like to ask a really weird question. Actually, I've had the opportunity to teach. I was Ariana's, Corey's daughter, her Bible teacher, and I also am her strength and conditioning coach at school. And so I've had the opportunity to see how Corey leads her life and pours into her daughter and the fruit in her daughter. So this
Thank you. Now you're going to make me cry. Yeah.
I posed this question at a chapel one time, and I'm asking all my guests this because
Okay.
it's fascinating to me on how you guys answer. So, do you know who Marvin the Martian is? The little Martian, like Looney Tunes guy.
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
right?
Hmm.
Okay, make this up. So let's say that you're
I've
at
never
your,
had anyone ask me actually that question
right?
before.
Okay. So let's say you're sitting at your dinner table
uh,
and Marvin the Martian shows up. This hypothetical
I
situation right
got
here.
you.
Okay. He shows up at your dinner table and he wants to know what it means to be human. I would like for you to share maybe your quick thoughts on how would you answer Marvin about the amazing uh, things that come with being a human? What would you tell him about the positives, the greatness of being human that he
Well,
should know about?
okay, so that is a loaded question. A million things are running through my
Hmm.
mind, like you get to taste Krispy Kreme donuts, you get to
They might
experience.
not have that on
Uh,
his planet.
I
Yeah.
know, I know. That's what I'm saying. It's amazing. What does it mean to be human? There's so many different ways I could take and answer
What
this
are just
question, but
real
what
quick,
first
like
came to mind,
boom.
and I used to sit next to my Nana once again, who has sowed so much seed into my life, and she's now in heaven.
Hmm.
But she would say to me every single day when I'd go in and she'd be doing her prayer, "We're here to help one another."
Mm.
That was the first thing she would say. And so,
Mm.
what it is to be human to me is to serve one another for God's greater purpose, um, in a nutshell. And with that comes joy, passion,
Mm.
kindness,
Mm.
caring, loving,
Love.
which is the biggest of all.
Hmm.
Love one another.
Hmm.
And when you get to experience those feelings, you inherently get this peace that passes all understanding. And when you can reach that peace, I would say to this little Marvin, the
Uh-huh.
Martian, there's no greater feeling
Mm.
than having that peace that passes all understanding and knowing that you are here for a purpose and a plan, that it goes beyond your own thoughts. Aside from getting to drive cars and swim and do all the fun mountain biking and riding, jumping
Yeah.
out of
We could probably
airplanes.
have a whole podcast for an hour
Exactly.
just on that question, right?
Exactly.
And I agree with you. Those are some amazing attributes of being humanity.
Yes.
But there's another side to humanity, and Marvin needs to know about it. What
Okay.
would you share? What would you share with Marvin about the hazards of humanity? What are the
Don't
potent?
drink and
What?
drive.
Okay. Don't abuse.
Don't abuse your situations, and that can be on many levels.
Hmm.
Don't abuse your relationships. Don't abuse your family, your friends. Don't abuse the gifts that God has given you.
Mm.
They're irrevocable gifts, whether it's a wonderful radio voice or, something that your kids
You're
have
talking
that
about
gifts.
yourself, right?
I told you this how long ago. I said, "What are you doing? You need to be in radio." But it is. Don't abuse your gifts and others. I
Hmm.
think that would be a great lesson for Marvin, who someday hopefully I get to meet you, Marvin.
So Marvin needs to understand, and obviously we're talking to ourselves
I
here in our
know.
audience,
I
right?
know.
So I'd like to have a little fun with this, but people, we need to know that we are potentially good and we are potentially bad, and what we sow into our hearts and our minds matters.
Well, I was talking to you about this, and I
Hmm.
would say to Marvin,
Hmm.
you have the ability to curse yourself or bless yourself
Mm.
with your spoken word. Speak it as though it is so. I say that to Ariana, and Ariana reminds me of it all the time, which is my daughter. Speak it as though it is so. So you can
Mm.
speak over your life or your children's lives, like we talked about,
Hmm.
or you can bless them or curse them or
Yeah.
yourself.
One of my previous guests, Andy Dooley, who was the face of Reebok One, said that his dad told him one time, look for where you want to be and then step into that situation
That's
now.
right. Yeah.
S- Similar. That's great.
Yeah. It is.
Um, Let me ask you this. When we're talking about Core4Power, the power of living in faith and fitness and family and finances. And when I say finances, I'm talking about career, being excited about what you do for a living. Out of those four, what would you say gives you the most power as a woman to affect the other areas of your life? Which one is the most powerful in your life that you harness the most energy and power from?
Well, the number one thing that brings me the most joy is Ariana.
Okay.
And she gives me such strength and power, and it has motivated me as a single mom.
Mm-hmm.
It has motivated me to dig deeper, to pray harder,
Mm-hmm.
to seek my relationship with God. She's motivated me even in my acting.
Mm.
in so many different ways because I've always been a caring, loving person, but it's just made me go deeper just because it's her relationship and my relationship, much like yours and your kids, obviously. We can understand once we have children just how much God loves us. I never really understood it until I had Ariana and I looked at her face and I conceptually knew that, okay, he loves me, but I didn't understand.
I tell people all the time, I didn't realize how selfish of a human being I
Yeah.
was until I had a child.
Yeah.
And
Amen.
I still live with that, right?
Yeah.
And so that's great because I think our listeners need to know, and I'm talking to men. Men, we have an obligation to pour into our families, intentionally speaking into and loving our wives, loving our kids, for those that have kids and family. And this is a consistent theme where a family member, kids, whatever, are energy. Not, and I say this all the time, it's not this mystic, I'm not talking about mystic religious energy, anything. I'm talking about, and I'm harnessing a power of of hope. I'm harnessing a power of drive and passion
Yes.
because I pour into that.
Yes.
And in turn, it fuels me.
Yes.
That's Core4Power. And when you're harnessing all four of these, that's life to the full.
To the full. And opening up that book, the Bible, you can get your power from
Okay.
just the words in that.
I'm going to ask you a question later.
Yeah.
You don't get to use the Bible again, but
Sorry.
because I already know how you're going to answer the question because you just mentioned it. But okay, so your family, your daughter is where you harness power. What would you say is one of the area you struggle the most, where you need to really be intentional to gain power from one of those four, or maybe something else where you need to grow in life?
You're going to make me cry because I don't even know how to answer this without being completely honest.
You take your time.
The area I struggle the most, I think, is not having given. It goes back to my daughter because I love her so much. My daughter, a family foundation, a unit. Even though I've given her dad and I have worked very hard of giving her, separately and together, just not having that.
Okay.
And I'm just being honest.
Yeah.
I do struggle with that, and it's not a bad thing. It's probably it's actually a good thing because I have developed a stronger relationship with God. But it's not something I can change.
Yeah.
And that's okay. I know God has a plan and a purpose. That's really the area I struggle the most with. And I know God works all things together for good.
So you would say that having gone through a divorce and not having that may be something that you struggle with personally, and you want to overcome that.
Yes.
And you're
I'm
looking
working
for
on it.
more power in your life to overcome that. That God will still, He still honors you. He still blesses you.
He does.
But it's something you struggle with. And I know there are a lot of people out there listening.
I know. And that's why it has been, I just want to encourage people. That's why for me personally, going through that, and you'll always go through it to some degree. This will always be the way it is. And it's okay. And that's why my relationship with God has helped me through it so much. And I gain my power from Him. I don't lose it. I gain it from Him. And when I kind of get off the beaten path and I go with my own thoughts, as soon as I get redirected and in the Word, I'm not going to say the book, but in the Word.
No, you could say it, but I'm going to ask you a question later, and that can't be your answer now.
Okay, I got
now
you.
that we already know what your number one book is.
But I gain that power in those words because it's His promise, and they're powerful, and they're just, it has helped me so much.
Well, I thank you for your being vulnerable and being honest, because I think that's what I want this show to be about. I want this to be about honesty and truth seeking.
You just want to make me cry.
No, that's my goal. I came in here today saying that I got to make her cry. But are you okay with making another shift in the questioning?
Absolutely.
Well, I got one more in this area of humanity, Kay, and I hope this has been beneficial to the tribe out there listening. Jesus said one time, "I have come," He said, "The thief comes to steal, kill, and destroy.
Yes.
But I have come to give life, and life to the full."
Yeah.
What did He mean by that?
Well, I think oftentimes people can think, well, you said, God, you're going to give me life to the full, and so I should have that $1 million mansion and that giant car and all that. And that's not what he means. I don't think. Personally, for me, I think that goes back to that feeling I was telling Marvin the Martian. The joy. I look at it as Jesus, others, and then you. But the joy you get and the just, it fills your heart. Your heart is full. And when your heart is full,
It's
really
that
the
feeling
things
beyond understanding.
yeah. Peace that passes all understanding. And I get that now. I didn't get it before. It took me years to get
Did you
there.
guys hear that? A peace beyond all understanding. There's a fullness of life that comes in that. And Jesus saying, I'm offering that to you.
I'm offering that to you right now. Like, right now. Yeah.
Okay, we're going to head into now what is called the power round.
Okay.
All right, the power round. Are you ready?
Do I have a buzzer?
The
wait, my
power
phone's
round,
buzzing.
and the reason I call them power round is because these are everything has already been so powerful. Just hearing your story, but the power round are 4 questions
Okay.
that have to do specifically with nuggets and resources that we can give to the listeners.
Okay.
And you'd think that at this point I'd have these memorized, and
Okay, that's okay.
I get caught up in the moment and I forget and I
Okay.
draw blanks. So I know the first question is, what would be one book, your favorite book? We already know the Bible is your go-to for everything. So what would be, outside the Bible, what would be your a go-to book or other resource that you feel would be valuable for our audience to know about?
Okay, so there's just so many, but I actually, with all good intentions, I can't rightfully not say the Bible. I have to.
Okay.
You said I had to exempt
Okay.
it, and I can't.
Okay.
Because
What book? Is there a particular book that you could, if somebody was looking to just get started?
I always say, right, I always say to people, that's a great question, because if I were to never have read the Bible and I'd opened it up at Genesis, I'd be like, oh man, this just goes on and on and on, and like, really? But
Translation matters too.
it does
King
matter.
James, I don't.
It does, but I always say start with Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John,
Okay.
and then just hit the Proverbs.
Okay.
I do hit the Proverbs because they're kind of
Words of wisdom.
everyday words of wisdom, and they help you. And it's funny because you said Proverbs 31, and that's my favorite. The epilogue, wife of a noble character. That's my favorite of the entire for me, because it spells out how I'm supposed to be and live. So I'm sorry I did not give you a book. I would just not be doing myself.
Is there another resource that you
justice.
can refer people to? They can go to find things that can be helpful and maybe growing in the power of their core force. Something that has to do with, their family or their.
There's many books. I would say I love Joel Osteen. I love
Okay.
all of his
Okay.
books. I love T.D. Jakes. He's amazing.
I love T.D.
He's on
Jakes.
fire. I love all of his books. I'm giving you authors because
Okay.
they have so many different books.
Okay.
Whatever fits you,
All right.
But those two stand out to mind. I'm reading one now, T.D. Jakes. I go back to the Bible because there's a reason why it's in every hotel room, and they give it to you when you hit rock bottom in prison.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
it's even just taking the faith out of it. I'm just going to say this. I know this is a big deal to say this, but even taking the faith out of it it's good foundation. It's good words of wisdom. It's encouragement.
It offers a lot for life.
So much.
So resources, the Bible. We've heard this before. Number 2, what is one discipline that you practice in your life on a maybe daily and or regular basis that you would recommend to someone, or that you can share that you practice, that's a discipline you practice?
Well, my mantra is to pray big. And
okay.
you know that I love to pray, and I think that it helps us establish our relationship with God. I've got a big giant sign right there that says pray big,
Yeah.
because it develops our own personal relationship with Him. And I don't want to sound preachy. This is not what this is about for me.
No,
and I
no.
know that's not what it's about for you.
No.
It's about living it. But it's helped me. I liken it to if Ariana went off to college and I never spoke to her again, my daughter, I would be devastated because I see her every day and we are with each other every day. And if she never called in, it would break me. Much like I know that if your kids didn't call you, it would break you. And so I just think God wants us to call in, dial in.
It's because you've disconnected from your power source.
That's
and we've
right.
already talked about that
That's
being
right.
one of
It's
your
a
power sources.
Powerful. you can gain so much, and
So,
whether it's 5 minutes in the
mhm.
morning, 5 minutes in the afternoon, or sometimes I'm doing it in my car. I'm driving in my
And I
car
love
praying.
that you said prayer because in a world we live in where meditation has gotten so popular, the term meditation and people defining this in different ways. Well, from a Christian worldview, I would say that meditation, yes, you're meditating on. I'm in prayer. I'm having a conversation, and
Yeah.
then I'm meditating and chewing on the what I'm hearing, what I might be reading. So, so we have power round is Bible.
Mm-hmm.
I got a couple authors. We have discipline is prayer,
Yes.
consistent prayer, waking up to prayer. That be consistent in your life. Number three, what is a piece of advice that you've been given in your life at some point that you remember deeply
Mm.
that
That's a good one. And
you can
right
impart?
away I can
Go
answer
ahead.
that. My stepdad told me to listen to your gut,
Hmm.
and I call it the check in your spirit. And he
Okay.
would say, "I've never seen anybody with a rudder that's so, and it's that was years ago, and I've now developed it because I've listened. Because believe me when I say, the times that I didn't listen to my gut, I drove myself off
Hmm.
the road.
You got to listen to the voice.
Listen to the voice. It's
That's the
God,
yeah.
and I would ask him. Ever since I can remember, I just want to hear your voice, God,
Mm.
please. Because I would hear pastors and I'd hear people speak, and they'd say, "Well, God said to me," and I'd be waiting for this audible voice to come over my shoulder. It's that check in your spirit.
Real quick story. I had a guy on my ship. I was in the Navy, and I asked him a couple questions, and this is part of my story.
Thank you
Ariana's
for your
actually,
service.
she's already, you're welcome. She's
My
already heard
grandpa was
this.
too.
And uh, I asked him a question one time, and he said, "Well, God told me to." And I was like, "That's the dumbest
Yeah.
thing I have ever
I
heard."
know.
No, really, how'd
I
you do it?
know.
And he's like, "No, really, I prayed over this, and then, God really moved me." And I was like, "That I didn't. What are you talking
I
about,
know.
dude?" I didn't understand it. I had to have an encounter. I had to open my heart to receiving God and move my pride out of the way. And it took a long time. It took falling off a
I
bridge.
know.
And so, last question in the power round. You ready?
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay. Last question in the power round is what kind of legacy do you want to leave in your life?
You're gonna make me cry again. Well, as you know, well,
Mm-hmm.
my whole story, but Jackie Kennedy said it
Mm-hmm.
best. I think if you failed your children, you failed at life.
Mm.
And I want my legacy to be. I want the person, everyone to say first and foremost that I didn't fail Ariana, and she's really my legacy.
Mm.
And I want her to have everything that I didn't, and I want to leave her, just a wonderful foundation, and I want to be known for just serving others. Really, I don't have, I don't, I want to. It's such a hard question because,
Can I ask you this?
yeah,
In wanting her to have so much more than you do or
yes,
did,
yes,
which we all do as parents, right?
yes,
Are you still okay with her struggles in life?
yes,
Amen. We've got to
yes.
let our kids struggle
Oh,
and love
yes.
them through it.
And believe me when I say, and that's a whole other show, but the struggles she's had this last year,
Mm-hmm.
and watching her
Mm-hmm.
and how she has dealt with them has given me so
Mm.
much strength. I just look at her and I just think, wow,
And that's legacy.
that's legacy.
It's awesome.
That's legacy.
Well, as we close, I love to take opportunities to affirm and acknowledge the people I have the opportunity to spend time with.
Can I ask you
And
just one quick question?
sure,
Can I?
yeah.
What would you tell Marvin, the Martian?
Mm. I would say what you need to know, Marvin, about humanity is that humanity has a creator,
Amen.
and humanity exists in the image of that creator, and we are beautiful because that creator made us beautiful.
Amen.
And one of the best things about humanity is he allows you to know him.
Love it. Good answer. That's why you're teaching my child.
But thanks for asking.
Yeah,
All right,
I'm
that's
curious.
awesome. But I want to affirm you. I have watched you. You lead Moms in Prayer at the school that your daughter teaches at. You have lived and served in the church. You have an amazing story, And what I do is before I meet with guests, I pray over, Lord, how would you have me affirm this person? And I ask for
Oh,
a particular passage. Sometimes they're the same, sometimes they're different. But for you, it was definitely the woman of noble character. Proverbs 31. And that was laid upon my heart. I even had Sage look it up, my son, who's on the other side of the camera over there, look it up. And I was like, that's her passage.
that's
And
crazy.
that passage is about just being a woman of character who does things right, makes mistakes, but comes back from those mistakes by going to the source and the power of life. And you
Thank you.
do that, and that's admirable. And I can see it in your daughter. And so I speak that proverb over you.
Thank
It's
you.
long, so I'm not going to read
I'll
it
take
because you
it.
know it,
I
and I'll
know
leave
it.
it up to our folks to go read it on their own. Maybe that if they haven't read the Bible, they can go start there and see what that means. Proverbs chapter 31.
Thank you.
Read through it.
Thank you.
So with that being said,
Thank you so much. That's a
how
blessing.
can people connect with you if you're okay with that? How can they?
Yeah. I
Please tell our tribe how they can connect with you and any last words.
thank you. First and foremost, it's always great to sit and talk with you, and I appreciate your questions, and I appreciate you thinking of me for this interview.
Hmm.
Um, and Sage, thank you. Um, I'm at CoriOliver.com. That's my website,
Okay.
and I
That's
have
Cory
yes,
Oliver.
yes, because there's a million different ways
Yes.
to spell it. So
Yes.
it's CoryOliver.com, CoriOliver.com. I have Twitter, Cory Oliver One. That's ONE, Cory Oliver One, and Instagram, which is Cory Oliver One as well. So you
Very
can
good. Any
connect with
last
me.
words?
You know what? I just thank you, really, truly, and thank
Hmm.
you guys. And I just hope and pray that all of you watching and
Mm.
listening will gain something from Mr. Mo, because I know my daughter has, and I have, and he has a great legacy. So
Well,
thank
thank
you.
you very much. And so as we close out, I just hope that, as I always say at the end of every episode, I hope that this has provoked thought. I hope it helps you to engage in discussion about the things you heard here. And most of all, I hope that it causes you to take action in some area of your life where you can grow and harness the power of faith, your fitness, your family, and your finances. So now go and live life to the full.
Amen.
Thank you, Cory.
Thank you.